Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah, it's good. Thanks for having me here. I've had a really good time. I spent a couple hours here yesterday, had some amazing conversations. I'm honored to be invited here. I want to thank everybody for making that possible. Dee and Monica and many others. I'm going to tell you a little about myself first. I'm going to tell you a Hollywood story is what I'm going to tell you. A journey I went through with one of the characters on The Simpsons. Oh, look, there's me. So yeah, there's me, Hank Azaria. Hello. I've been working as an actor, comedian about the last 40 years in Hollywood, if you don't know, and on stage. I'm mostly known as a voice guy. I do a lot of accents and voices, and primarily on The Simpsons for the last 35 years, but there's Agador Spartacus from the Birdcage. I don't know if you are familiar, but this is actually an imitation of my maternal grandmother. This is what she sounded like. Her name was Esther. She was a beautiful lady. I studied Guatemalan accent, but I realized I sound like my grandma, so I'm just going to go with that. And I base a lot of voices on people I know, either famous or personal. And it was a good choice for that, because I had to play a very, let's just say, feminine character. My grandmother was a beautiful, loving, feminine person. And so that's what I did there. Now, this is Claude from Along Came Polly, a French accent. This was hard for me to get. I had to work for 2 months to get a pretty good French accent. It did not come easy to me. I also was in the gym almost constantly, as you can sort of tell. By the end, I was eating nothing but the ice cube and my own thoughts. That was it. But I did the IPA. I hope you are. As long as you are for scuba, everything is good with me. He was obsessed with scuba. What else we got here? The man in question. Now, I don't do the voice of Apu anymore, but I've been doing The Simpsons for, well, now it's 35 years. At the time it was 25, 27 years. And all of a sudden, and Emmy Awards, the character of Apu itself won a few awards, paid beyond handsomely. And I was never a controversial figure. You wouldn't go online, and I wasn't polarizing in any way. And all of a sudden, about 10 years ago, I get called out, really publicly called out for this character, that I was a white guy doing a very stereotypical, silly voice of an Indian guy on The Simpsons. And you may or may not have heard about this, but it was a very big deal in my life. It was really it was a social media and other kind of nightmare. And it got traction. It wasn't like, oh, that's an annoying news item for 20 minutes today. It got a lot of publicity. And it would keep coming back. It wasn't like, oh, I survived that round of it. Because when it first happened, I just wanted it to go away. I had no idea what to make of it. It confused and upset me. And I got pretty defensive about it, not publicly, but I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't understand, you heard all my voices. I didn't make any distinction. I do every voice. What's the difference? I mean, I got some answers to that particular question along my journey, but I didn't see it. A guy made a documentary about it, an Indian comedian named Hari Kondabolu, where I was quite vilified in it, even worse than just a guy who did a voice who was hired to do it when he was 23 years old when it started. Kind of really made me, if you'll pardon the bad pun, the white whale of it. Like, it's this guy's fault. Kind of made me the symbol of the whole thing. Really confused and upset me. And a lot of Indian comedians and the current Surgeon General in the United States at the time reported that they really felt very marginalized by this character growing up. You saw a bit of Hari Kondabolu's stand-up where he compared me to, he said, my characterization of Apu sounds like a white guy imitating another white guy trying to make fun of his father, which turned out was more true than he even knew, and I'll get to why that is in a moment. And so the documentary, which was pretty mean to me, but got the point across. I started realizing, well, people, at least some people, have a problem with this, and especially American people who grew up, kids who grew up in this country with this, felt a certain way about it. Not everyone. I had a lot of interesting conversations yesterday with a lot of folks. Not everybody feels this way. Not at all. It's very divided. I had other seminal moments besides this documentary, though. One of the places I spoke and talked to was at Trinity School in New York, where my son was at the time. I talked to a bunch of Indian kids, South Asian kids, and asked them their impressions of it. They were 17, 18 years old. One young man, tears in his eyes, slightly accented, which I found ironic. His was authentic and quite good, mine, as opposed to my silly one. Said, please, please, please tell the people in Hollywood that what they make and what they write and what they put out affects people. Please tell them that. I said, okay. And I have done that. I usually give this spiel in a Hollywood context. Another young lady who was a little more caustic said, look, she said it like that, I don't know the show, I don't see the show, I don't watch the show, I don't care about the show. I've never seen it. I know what Apu means to me. It's a slur to me. It's how my people get marginalized. It's like, okay. And what kind of clinched all that for me was finding out that when hate crimes were committed very often against convenience store owners, South Asian folks who work at convenience marts, when they were stabbed or beaten or robbed or worse, they were called Apu. I even heard it once. I actually heard it happen, used as a slur. I was like, oh, okay, well, at least in part, this got away from us. At least in part, right? I mean, sure, our intentions were good, of course. And even Hari Kondabolu says, you'd see him say it, I love The Simpsons, it's hilarious. I love Apu. It's just that there's a piece of it that came along that really, that I could have done without. And it involved what I came to consider my own personal blind spot that was representative of a larger societal blind spot. I'm going to be specific about that. I don't know how many of you know Peter Sellers. You know Peter Sellers? Peter Sellers is a wonderful, wonderful old comedian. There he is. Inspector Clouseau, you ever see those? Old movies now. It's a very silly French accent, different from Claude in A Long Game Polly. It talks like this. Very silly, very funny. He was a hero of mine growing up. That's him in brown face as Harundi V. Bakshi in a film from the 60s called The Party, where he plays a kind of bumbling, sweet Indian actor trying to make it in Hollywood. Now, this guy was like my hero, not Harundi V. Bakshi, but Peter Sellers. I mean, I aspired to be like half of what he could be. I based the voice of Apu on his performance in The Party, on that voice. I was imitating that voice. So I really was a white guy imitating another white guy, making fun of Hari Kondabolu's dad, literally. I'm passing on a tradition of essentially mocking for humor's sake. Now, I know this is gray area. It's not as simple. It's not one thing or another. Either funny or horrible. It's both. I'm just saying I had no clue. And that, to me, became the real point of the journey, is I didn't know. I never asked myself. And I can tell you honestly, reporting from Hollywood, as your Hollywood correspondent, most of us didn't. All the writers in the room, Matt Groening, all of us there. I worked on a lot of projects. Not one of us ever checked in to go, now, wait a minute. Is this offensive? Is it upsetting? Should we check this? Should we think about its impact? It's that, and it doesn't, that mindfulness doesn't take all that much. It just takes front-loading it with a little bit of awareness. That's about what I have for you. I'd love to talk more, but thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.